Your Samsung TV is taking screenshots of everything you watch, right now, without asking. Samsung has a system running in the background that captures what is on your screen and sends it back to their servers. It is called ACR, and it shipped enabled by default on every Samsung TV sold in the last 5 years. That is the first thing we are turning off today, and it gets more interesting from there. ACR is Samsung's built-in data collection system, and it shipped enabled by default on every Samsung TV sold in the last several years. The full name is Automatic Content Recognition, and what it does is simple. Every few seconds, your TV takes a screenshot of whatever is on screen and sends that image back to Samsung's servers. It does not matter if you are watching Netflix, a Blu-ray, live television, or a YouTube video. The system runs in the background constantly with no visible indicator on screen. Samsung uses this data to build a detailed profile of your viewing habits, what you watch, when you watch it, how long you watch, and what you skip. That profile is then shared with advertising partners as part of Samsung's data monetization business. You technically agreed to this during the initial TV setup in a terms and conditions screen that appeared for about 5 seconds alongside 15 other screens. Nobody reads those. Samsung knows nobody reads those. That is why ACR is on by default instead of off. Think about what that actually means. Your TV sitting in your living room, your bedroom, sometimes your kitchen has been quietly documenting your private viewing habits from the day you turned it on. Every person who watches TV in your home contributes to that same profile: children, partners, guests. The data is tagged to the device location, not to an individual, which means every viewing session by every person in your household feeds into a dataset Samsung monetizes continuously. You paid full price for this television. Samsung is also making money from your viewing behavior every single day you use it. The fix takes 20 seconds, and most people who do it feel something shift when they realize how long it was running. Go to Settings, then Privacy, then find Viewing Information Services and switch it off. On newer Tizen models, try Settings, then Support, then Terms and Privacy. The moment you turn it off, Samsung stops collecting. Your data stops leaving your home. 20 seconds to take back your privacy on a device you already own. Does it bother you that Samsung never mentioned this in any advertisement, product page, or setup guide? The scope of what ACR captures is broader than most people assume when they first learn about it. The system does not only identify streaming content, it processes everything that appears on screen, including video game footage, personal photos displayed through a connected device, and content from external media players. Samsung's content recognition database is extensive enough to identify programming from hundreds of countries and thousands of content providers. The behavioral data generated from your household's viewing across all of these sources creates a profile that advertising companies use to categorize you as a consumer, what income bracket you likely belong to, what products you are likely to purchase, what political content you engage with. This is standard practice across the smart TV industry. But Samsung's implementation is among the most comprehensive. The 30-second fix of turning off viewing information services is the most impactful privacy action most Samsung TV owners can take on a device they use every single day. Because the next feature Samsung hid from you was not hidden by accident, it was engineered specifically to stay invisible to regular consumers. Hotel Mode is a secret service configuration menu that Samsung built into every one of their smart televisions and deliberately left out of every consumer manual, setup guide, and support document they have ever published. The code to open it does not live inside any settings menu. You type it directly from your TV home screen using the standard remote. Press mute, then 1, then 1, then 9, then enter. A hidden service interface appears that Samsung designed for hotels, hospitals, and corporate installations where technicians configure large numbers of TVs in bulk. Samsung never told regular consumers this menu exists because commercial configuration services are a paid professional category. Hotel clients pay Samsung-certified technicians to apply these settings. The fact that the same menu is accessible on your home TV through a remote control code is something Samsung has never publicized and never will. Inside Hotel Mode, you can set your default boot input so that every time the TV powers on, it goes directly to HDMI 2 for your game console or streaming device. Instead of loading Samsung's home screen full of apps and recommendations, you never asked for. The average Samsung TV owner navigates past that home screen multiple times every single day. Eliminating it with one boot input setting saves those interactions permanently across years of ownership. You can lock individual apps behind a PIN code, streaming services, browsers, any installed applications so nobody accesses them without knowing the password. This provides granular content control for households with children that Samsung's standard parental settings do not offer. You can set an absolute maximum volume ceiling that the remote physically cannot exceed regardless of how many times someone presses the volume button, useful for apartments, for parents, for anyone managing shared walls and shared spaces. You can also configure Filmmaker Mode as a permanent default picture setting inside Hotel Mode, so even if someone accidentally changes the picture during viewing, a TV restart returns to your preferred calibration automatically. Hotel Mode settings persist across power cycles and software updates in a way that standard consumer settings do not, making them more reliable for configurations you need to stay permanent. The combination of boot input control, app locking, volume limiting, and persistent picture mode defaults represents a level of TV customization Samsung reserves for paying commercial clients. You now have access to the same menu for free. The lesser-known use of Hotel Mode is resetting your TV to a known good configuration after a software update changes your settings without notification. Samsung's Tizen operating system updates occasionally reset consumer-level picture and sound settings as a side effect of feature additions or security patches. Settings configured through Hotel Mode are stored in a separate partition of the TV's memory that Tizen updates do not touch. This means your carefully configured boot input, volume limit, and picture defaults survive software updates that would otherwise reset your standard settings, menu choices. For anyone who has experienced the frustration of turning on their TV after an overnight update and finding everything changed, Hotel Mode configuration is the permanent solution. But the setting that has actively degraded your viewing experience every single night since you took your TV out of the box requires its own explanation. Filmmaker Mode is the reason we go deeper on this channel than anywhere else, because Samsung built the solution to one of the most complained about problems in consumer television history, and then made it almost impossible for regular buyers to find. Your TV shipped from the factory with a picture mode called Dynamic, selected as the default. Dynamic was designed for retail showroom floors where televisions compete for attention under bright commercial lighting, and the most vivid, brightest image wins the sale. In your living room, Dynamic Mode makes every piece of professionally produced content look wrong in specific, measurable ways. The first problem is color dynamic pushes saturation past accurate reproduction, so skin tones shift orange, skies become too blue, and natural environments look artificially vivid in ways that become obvious once you know to look for them. The second problem is artificial sharpening. Dynamic applies edge enhancement processing that creates a visual crispness that does not exist in the source material, making fine textures look overworked and facial detail look plastic. The third problem is motion smoothing, and this is the one that ruins movies most dramatically. Dynamic enables a processing feature that generates artificial frames between the original frames of a film, making content shot on cinema cameras at 24 frames per second look like it was recorded on a consumer camcorder at 60. This effect has its own widely recognized name, the soap opera effect, because it makes expensive cinematic productions look like daytime television. Major directors have spoken publicly about it. Christopher Nolan, Patty Jenkins, and James Cameron have all asked manufacturers to disable motion smoothing by default because it destroys the visual language of their work. Samsung built Filmmaker Mode specifically to address all three problems simultaneously. Activating it disables motion smoothing completely, removes artificial sharpening, and locks color temperature to the D65 standard that every professional colorist works to in post-production. What appears on your screen matches what the creative team intended you to see. Navigate to Settings, then Picture, and select Filmmaker Mode. The moment you switch on any cinematic content, the difference is immediate shadow detail appears in dark scenes that Dynamic was crushing. Skin tones and close-up dialogue look like real skin. Motion in action sequences feels like camera movement rather than video game rendering. Your Samsung TV has always been capable of this picture quality. Samsung made Dynamic the default because it looks impressive for 30 seconds in a store. Everything you have ever watched on this screen looked worse than it should have because of that single default setting. That changes tonight, and the next feature might be the one that quietly delivers the most consistent daily value of everything in this video. Eco Sensor is the feature that reduces your electricity bill every single month without requiring any attention after the initial 2-minute setup. Samsung engineered an ambient light sensor into the front bezel of most of their television models, a small photosensitive component that continuously measures the brightness level of the room your TV is in and communicates that measurement to the display system in real time. When your room is bright, the TV automatically increases screen brightness so the image stays vivid and fully visible against competing light sources. As your room transitions to evening, as overhead lights dim, or as natural light fades after sunset, the sensor detects the reduction and the TV reduces brightness proportionally. The viewing experience stays comfortable and properly calibrated to room conditions without any manual adjustment ever required. Samsung's own testing across multiple screen sizes shows up to 30% reduction in power consumption compared to running at a fixed maximum brightness setting throughout the day. On a large format Samsung television used for 4 to 6 hours daily, that reduction generates real, measurable savings across a full calendar year. Calculated across a typical 7 to 10-year TV ownership period, the cumulative savings become significant, in many cases exceeding the price difference between television model tiers. The ambient light sensor that enables this saving costs Samsung a small amount to include in the hardware. The decision to bury its activation in a settings submenu that most consumers never open means the majority of that saving is never realized by the people who paid for the technology. A second feature in the same settings location compounds the savings further. Auto Power Off monitors remote control activity and television use and automatically powers the television down after a configurable period, typically 1 to 4 hours during which no user input has been detected. The practical elimination of overnight power consumption from a viewer falling asleep during late evening viewing adds meaningfully to the annual total. Go to Settings, then General, then Eco Solution. Enable ambient light detection, enable auto power off, and set your preferred timeout. Setup takes under 2 minutes, and savings begin immediately and run indefinitely. The last feature in this video is different from everything we have covered. It is not a privacy setting. It is not a picture calibration. It is not an electricity optimization. It is a complete reframing of what your Samsung TV actually is and what it can become at the center of your connected device life. Multiview transforms your Samsung TV from a single-purpose display into the central hub of your entire Galaxy device ecosystem, and the majority of Samsung TV owners have never activated it once. The feature divides your television screen into 2 simultaneously active display areas, running independent content sources in parallel, not a picture-in-picture overlay, but 2 fully independent panels, each running at their own frame rate with separate audio streams managed individually or routed through your connected audio system with channel separation. The content combinations are extensive. You can mirror your Galaxy phone screen on one half while streaming content on the other. You can run 2 different streaming services simultaneously, a live sports match on one panel and a separate event on the other. You can display a gaming console on one side while monitoring messages or a video call on the other. For fitness use, you can run a workout video on one panel while Galaxy Watch health metrics display on the other, creating a connected training environment that dedicated fitness products charge premium prices to replicate. The Galaxy ecosystem integration goes substantially further than basic screen splitting. When Galaxy Buds paired to your phone detect proximity to a Samsung television running multi-view, Samsung's cross-device audio routing activates and offers to redirect audio between the phone source and the television or distribute audio from both sources simultaneously. The transition happens automatically without manual Bluetooth disconnection. Your Galaxy phone's display appears on the television wirelessly with no cables, no streaming dongles, no additional hardware. Your phone and TV sharing a Wi-Fi network is the only requirement. If your audio setup includes a Samsung soundbar with Q Symphony, support the television speakers and soundbar array combined into a unified system with multi-view active, each content source receiving independent processing through the combined speaker network. So, phone content and television content each occupy their own acoustic space in the room without audio blending. Navigate to menu on your Samsung remote. Select Multiview and choose your 2 content sources. If you have never run this with a Galaxy phone as one of the sources, try it tonight. The moment the system detects your phone and automatically routes its audio through your television speakers is the moment Samsung's ecosystem philosophy stops being marketing language and becomes something you feel in your hands. 5 features, none of them in the manual. ACR off, your privacy restored. Hotel mode configured, your TV starts exactly where you want it every time. Filmmaker mode, active, your picture looks the way the people who made the content intended. Eco sensor, running your electricity bill drops every month without effort. Multi-view, connected, your Samsung devices work as one system through your largest screen. The long-term significance of multi-view extends beyond individual use cases to a broader shift in how a television functions within a home. A television that can simultaneously display content from a streaming service, a connected phone, a gaming console, and a smart home camera feed is not a single-purpose entertainment display. It is a display infrastructure for an entire household's digital activity. Samsung's investment in cross-device protocols and ecosystem software is designed to position the television as this central hub rather than as a standalone device. Multi-view is the feature through which that positioning becomes tangible. Whether that vision is compelling or overwhelming depends entirely on how you use the devices you already own. But the feature exists, it works, and it is running on the television in your home right now, waiting to be activated. Samsung TV owners who apply all 5 of these settings report that their television feels like a different product. Not because the hardware changed, but because the default configuration Samsung shipped was optimized for Samsung's commercial interests rather than for the viewer's experience. That gap between what the hardware is capable of and what Samsung enables by default is what this channel exists to close. Subscribe to Premium Tech. We keep finding the features Samsung forgot to mention. Peace.